Today we're going to talk with an archer that likes to hunt the Coues deer, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's going on with that. Hi, my name is Rory Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101. Welcome to the show. JJ, tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us a bit about your archery journey.
Okay, my name's JJ Salinas. Just turned 33 a couple days ago. I'm originally from New Mexico, a small town of about 3,500 people. So I grew up what we call the boonies, out in the desert. And currently I'm living in Tucson, and it's been about 5 years this month. And the way I got into archery, when I turned 18, they actually bought me a used Hoyt Havoc Tech for my birthday. And they bought it for me in January, and I actually didn't shoot it till I think it was the summer of that same year, because I didn't know how to adjust the poundage on it. I didn't know really anything about it. I couldn't pull the bow back, so it just kind of sat there collecting dust. And I had one of my friends come and adjust it for me, and after that I fell in love with it, and been doing it ever since. So it's been a fun journey. I've had a lot of opportunities to hunt in different places, hunt with different people, hunt different animals. So it's been fun. It's opened up a lot of doors for me, and it's probably the best birthday present I've ever received was a used bow off of eBay for my 18th birthday. So
Yeah, that's a good present, and unfortunately you couldn't use it for a little while, but hey,
right.
you finally started and just kind of taken off with it. I know you just got back from a hunting Coues deer, and you posted a picture in Messenger on your deer that you got. Tell us about the difference between hunting a Coues deer and like your whitetail or muleys.
So a Coues deer, I take the approach of hunting like you'd hunt an eastern whitetail. In the area that I hunt, mainly for archery, it's in southeastern Arizona. There's a lot of pines, a lot of juniper trees. So you basically take the approach like you would in the Midwest, back east. Hunt a lot of trails, set up blinds. You can hunt out of a tree stand in certain spots of the mountain range that I hunt. But we mainly focus on trails, and during the rut, you can grunt them in, you can rattle them in, you can use a bleak can. So I basically take the approach like I would if I'm hunting Illinois, which I've hunted quite a bit. Any of those Midwestern states, because it's a Coues deer is the cousin to a whitetail, so you just kind of take the same approach. And the only difference, one of the biggest differences, is they're super hard to find through your glass. I mean, that's kind of our best friend out here out west is if you're rifle hunting them or you're trying to do a spot and stock, which we've done. Glassing them up is one of the most difficult things that you have to try to learn, because they blend in so well with the landscape. But once you train your eye to find them, I mean, it's fun to sit on a mountain range and glass for 5-6 hours like we have on rifle hunts. And but as far as hunting them with archery equipment, I take the approach like I do in the Midwest. I have several blinds set up. I have man-made blinds that I've built over the years, and just find a good spot during the rut and hit your grunt call, cold call a little bit, and you'd be surprised how many times they come in to check things out. So I've been hunting them with archery equipment for since I was 18. This was my 15th year hunting that same area that I've always hunted, and I've killed 13. That was my 13th one with the bow. So it's been fun to learn over the years. I mean, that's your best teacher, is getting out into the field and learning from your mistakes and just kind of putting it all together year after year. And you kind of learn the landscape, learn their behaviors, and makes for you to become pretty successful. And luck plays a lot with it too. So I've been blessed in that aspect.
Yeah, it always, when you get to hunt an area over and over and over, it really makes it nice. Now, is that
Right.
private property or public property?
It's all public. It's all one thing about Arizona. So I've hunted most of the time that I've hunted Arizona has been as a non-resident when I was living in New Mexico. Which the cool thing about Arizona is they have archery over the counter for deer. So it gives you the opportunity to really put in the time in one certain area and really get to know it. This year they implemented a harvest quota. So the season opens up in August and September for a few weeks. And then there's another season in December and then January. So what they did was they implemented the harvest quota. So for that certain unit, there was like 75 Coues deer you could kill. And once that quota was met, then the unit was closed. So it was kind of iffy watching it as, you know, the deer were getting killed. So I was glued to my phone almost every day during the season to make sure it was still open. But luckily it survived to the end of the month. So it was fun to be able to get to hunt for, 7-8 days in January, which is my favorite time of year to hunt them.
Especially down south, it's a little bit cooler, and
Right.
Up here in January and December, it can get really, really cold.
Yeah.
Now, how's that when you're hunting in, like the October, September down there in Arizona? Isn't it still pretty hot? How does that affect your hunting?
So August, September, when you're hunting them, it's a little warm. You'll get days, down there where I hunt at high 80s, sometimes low 90s. But for the most part, you're looking at an average of 75 to 80 degrees. And I have one of my friends who's a taxidermist, and he's hunted that area for years. And I seen him in January, and his all-time favorite time to hunt them is August and September, because they're still bachelored up together. They're still on their summer feeding patterns. So they're a lot easy to set up and ambush them. But as even October, it's still a little warm. But once that cool air starts coming, it's getting close to the rut, and they usually rut mid-January, a little bit of pre-rut or late December, early January. But this year, I think the peak of the rut hit like the 16th through the 22nd. So it just depends on basically season to season on when the rut's going to hit. But as long as I've been hunting in there, it's always hit kind of peak in the middle of the month of January. But August, September, it's a good time to hunt them. But like you said, it's still a little warm. So it makes for long sits in a blind, when it's 85, 90 degrees outside.
Yeah, you're in there in your t-shirts and underpants
Right.
because it's so darn hot.
Yep.
Yeah, I know up here in Nebraska, I'm in the eastern part of Nebraska, and our rut's in the second week in November. So
Okay.
it's fairly early, and up here the rifle season is during the rut. And
Okay.
they've changed our archer season a little bit different. It used to be 15th of September till that when rifle starts, and then pick up after that, go to the end of the year. And they've changed that a few years back where it starts September 1st and goes to December 31st. It doesn't shut down during rifle. You just have to put orange on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be out there when they got rifles out there and you're in
Oh,
all
no.
camo, because they're not going to see you.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we have a nice long muzzleloader season. It's the whole month of December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you got to wear your orange for that. But it's weird because the archers don't have to wear orange during December. But you
Right.
still got muzzleloaders out there.
Right.
One of those weird things.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the difference in taste between like the Coues and the whitetail?
I've never really seen too big of a difference. I mean, Coues deer is amazing. I mean, they're such small animals that usually the meat's really tender. You get a mature buck that weighs 110, 115 pounds, maybe 120 at times. But I killed a mule deer last year during the rut, and it was probably the worst tasting meat that I've ever had. But so, I mean, as far as Midwest, Eastern whitetails to Coues deer, you can't really tell the difference. But when you start eating mule deer meat and Coues deer meat, you can definitely tell a big difference in that.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the whitetails around here, corn, soybeans,
Right.
alfalfa, that's
Right.
their diet, because
Oh yeah.
pretty much all the farm crops are one of those three, and
Right.
they eat a lot of that. And then some nuts when they have your different kind of nut trees around. They'll eat some of
Right.
those. And then the mule deer here is out more further west, and they're more roaming, eating sagebrush and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they aren't quite as good at tasting, but
Right.
hey, it's all good. We have some pretty big sized deer up here. Um our fawns are in the 75 to 80 pound ones, which are fawns are going to be, and adults run 150, 125,
Right.
150, 180. I've seen some get them 200-pound deer,
Wow.
and that's some big deer.
Oh, that's a big deer. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know down in Texas they have big racks on them, but they're small bodies.
Right. Yeah.
That's why they look like they're so big, because a little bitty
Yeah.
body, and the same size rack on a whitetail up here ain't gonna look as big.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
So, do you do any 3D shooting or any target shooting, or just hunt?
Um, yeah, I've always just stuck to hunting. I've always wanted to do, there's a big 3D shoot that they do up in northern Arizona. It's called the Sunrise Shoot. You take a ski lift up to the top of the mountain and just kind of work your way down, shooting all these different targets. And they got vendors and different things like that set up. So as far as 3D shooting, that's kind of the only thing that I've been interested in doing, was maybe attending that shoot at one time. But for the most part, it's just all my archery experience has been just hunting. It's just something that I've fallen in love with, and kind of never looked back or looked at any 3D shoots or tournament shoots. Or I've always kind of had a desire to do at least one or two, but just never have gone around to doing it.
Yeah, I've done a little. I do target shooting to develop my skills to hit the spot I'm aiming at. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
know, if I aim it at that X, I'm going to hit that X. And then I
Right.
like doing the 3D shoots, because now that's helped me judge yardage. I'm not real fond of going marked yardage shoots, because what's the skill in that? I'm bow hunting, and I
Right.
want to be able to learn how to judge yardage, and those really help on that. And so I do the target to get my skill down, and the 3D to get my yardage down, and
Right.
shot
Yeah.
placement, and get used to shooting at different animals. That the only thing you learn at is realize is that where you aim at for a 3D target may not be where you're going to aim at when you shoot at the animal, because
Right.
you're not on flat ground, and if you shoot, on a hill, at that 10 ring, well, you're going to have a bottom exit. So
Oh yeah.
a lot of things going a lot different when you're out there,
Right.
hunting. And so where's your favorite place to go hunt?
It has to be here in southeastern Arizona. It's called the Chiricahua Mountains. You're talking thousands and thousands of acres of national forest, the Coronado National Forest. And I've hunted Illinois. I have a friend out there that runs an outfit. I've hunted Maryland, Florida. I've hunted Nebraska for turkey a couple times. I've hunted Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. And still my favorite, even above, and people call me crazy, but even above chasing elk during the rut, I just love hunting Coues deer in southeastern Arizona during the rut. I mean, it's just a fun time, and I mean, I've grown to love it. I love hunting elk, calling them in, shooting a big bull, but to me, still, there's nothing like chasing what we call the gray ghost.
Yeah,
Being able to put one down with the bow is pretty awesome, and an accomplishment. So to be able to do it every year is or get the opportunity to try to do it every year. I
right.
just love doing it. I mean, it's a hunt that I've always, you know, loved and always wanted somebody else to experience it, because it's just a fun time watching those little bucks chase does and hear them grunting. And I mean, I just love it. So I would say that would probably be my favorite place to hunt, would be southeastern Arizona, the Chiricahua Mountains. And just the history alone, you know, as far as, you know, it's not far from where Geronimo surrendered. It's where he lived and the Apaches lived. So it just has a real cool history to it. I have a friend that's a Native American historian there, and it's just a majestic mountain range, and I just love doing it. And I'd say that hands down, that would probably be my favorite place to hunt.
Yeah, it's kind of fitting, you know, doing archery in that area.
Right. Yeah. You get the thoughts cross your mind that, hey, at one time there was Indians in here with handmade bows, chasing animals and living off the land and doing everything they could to survive. And I just think it's cool that, you know, you're hunting in a spot where Native Americans habited at one time, and that was their land, and they were probably doing the same thing you were, not all camoed out like we do these days, but
Right.
but still killing animals and putting meat on, so to speak, their table. So it was, you know, it's cool when you're around that environment as far as the history of it, and it just makes it that much more special.
So what bow you're shooting now?
So I shoot it's the Coues Thrive. I shot PSC for a while. I was on their field staff for quite a number of years. So this hunt I've used, it's a Coues Thrive, but I'm probably going to go next year to Bowtech, and probably stick with them. But I've shot mainly PSC most of my hunting career, and I love their bows. They're based out of Tucson, so it makes it cool. I visited their factory a time or two. I had a friend that was the marketing manager for them for 20 some years. So it was nice that you were hunting with a bow that was made right here where you live. But this year I used Coues, and I liked it. Shot good.
Yeah, I spent a week down in at the PSC factory going through their training.
Yeah.
I was a PSC dealer for several years.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know their bows back, you know, 20 some years ago, their bows.
Right. Yeah.
And that's still my hunting bow is a 2001 PSC Carrera.
Okay.
And my other bow is like a 2003 Scorpion.
Okay. Yeah.
That's one of those that come out with 1 year. Mine's a single cam, then they come out with a 2 cam, then they dropped it.
Yeah.
So if you look on it, you look on the spec sheet, they say it's instead of being a single cam, it's got, you know, your 2 cables and your string. Well, mine has 1 string and 1 cable, so there's only 2 on mine. And it's like, okay, I want to know what the length is, because it wasn't on my bow. So I said, okay, here's my serial number. It's like, okay, this is the length. Because the spec sheet I had didn't have that on it, and what was online. So the one they had for the next year, not this one, because 1 year this one was out, and
that was it.
Yeah, that's the one I use when I'm not hunting. You know, 'cause I have it set up, because I shoot Muzzy broadheads.
Okay.
I've been shooting Muzzy broadheads since my first broadhead.
Wow.
And I just haven't switched. And one of the things with the Muzzies is they don't exactly fly like a field tip.
Yeah.
So my hunting bow, I have it set to shoot the broadheads. And when I shoot a field tip out of, or just kind of warm up practicing, they don't hit where I'm aiming, but I don't care because I know the broadheads do.
Right. Yep.
And then the other one is set up just for shooting, you know, field tips, whether I'm shooting 3Ds or target or whatever. And I shoot target at my 70 pounds that I shoot my hunting weight. That's what I shoot.
Right.
For me, I found I've locked into my form better with the 70 pounds. I go down to 60. It's harder for me to lock into my form, because it's like, almost like not enough force on it, and it's just too much let off for me. And for me, I just shoot better that way. And
yeah, absolutely.
So I see you got Grim Reaper on. Is that the broadheads you use?
Yeah, I've been on their pro staff for about 6 years. The first broadhead I ever shot on my first hunt was a Rage. And after that, I ended up going to, got introduced to Grim Reapers, and I started shooting those, and I've shot those for 14 years. And I got on their staff, and to this day, I still shoot the Grim Reapers, and I really like them. I've killed mule deer, elk, Coues deer, antelope, all with Grim Reaper.
What is the weight that you're shooting?
So I shoot
No.
65 pounds.
65.
Right. Yeah. I used to shoot 70, and like 3 years ago, I had I don't know if it was a tear in my rotator cuff, but it would hurt after I'd shoot, 10, 15 arrows. And then actually last year, or excuse me, the year before, I bumped it up to 70 pounds, and I was able to shoot bat like I usually would when I would shoot 70 pounds. And then I ended up just dropping it to 65, kind of in the middle of 60 and 70
Right.
and 70, and just kind of kept it there because I could shoot, all day long if I wanted to, and not start hurting or anything like that. So I found 65 pounds for me is a good weight.
Yeah, and each person's a little bit different, what they're going to shoot. If you're having problems, and I know a lot of people will start having problems with their shoulders. I actually did one of the podcasts on it, shoulder injuries and how to recover from them. Because
Right.
as you're up there, and then a lot of people straighten that arm all out, and the shoulder raises up, and then
Yeah.
they have shoulder problems. You got to remember to drop that shoulder down, and that's the thing. As I'm teaching, I started teaching archery in '95, and
Oh, wow.
I've helped a lot of people, and it's one thing I'm looking at. It's like, okay, drop that shoulder down.
Yeah.
You want to keep shooting, keep that shoulder down, and that's one of those things that you look for. And I teach back tension release. Once I learned that, the first time I heard about it, I like, how you know what you're going to hit if you're not pulling the trigger? And then once I learned, it's like, oh, I'm hitting it because I'm not pulling the trigger.
Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing how much different it is. And being in martial arts for over 20 years, while I was doing that and learning that, I was doing martial arts, so I kind of have a little bit different, because in martial arts, when we're going to break a board, we need to make sure it goes straight to the target, and I kind of do that a little bit different in the way I do my technique, what works for me.
Right.
But may not work for everybody. But I start off teaching like I do it. If it don't work, we change it.
Right. Yeah.
And one of the things that I do offer in the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group, for those that get to listen to the podcast or see it on YouTube, and for those of you in the group as well, if you want to upload a video of you shooting and say, give me pointers,
Right.
or how's my form, or what's going on, and somebody give you some opinions. And we've got people in the group that have been shooting for 70 years.
Wow.
I've been shooting for probably 60 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I got my first bow in the mid 60s, when I was probably about 7 or 8, 10, something like that. I forget now, it's been so long ago. But back then there was no compounds. They didn't exist yet. It was either longbow, recurve, or crossbow, and they were all, there was no wheels, no cams, no let off. Yeah, further you pulled it back, the more weight it was. And
Yeah.
and it was until the 70s when I started shooting compound bows. And
Okay.
so I've been shooting compounds for quite a while.
I think you're giving up your age there a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I think most people in the group know how old I am. Here right now of the month I'll be 68. So
you don't look a day over 25, man.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the beauty of cameras. I can kind of hide back and not look. On the fact that I have a good high resolution camera, so it's probably pretty clear. Now, if I go to the laptop one, it's a blurry camera. That they don't have the best cameras, but
Yeah.
I have a separate camera up on top of my monitor, so that's what it
Okay.
looks like. If I'm looking down, it's like you see the top of my head because look
Yeah.
at the camera. I got to look up like this because my
Yep.
camera's up above because I have a good sized monitor here.
There you go.
So, what is your most memorable hunt?
Man, it'd probably be the bull that I shot in New Mexico. 2015, I got drawn in the Gila National Forest of New Mexico, which is kind of the big bull unit. And it's kind of a real sought out place to hunt in New Mexico for elk. And it was me and my dad. My mom had packed my dad in our travel trailer for almost 2 weeks worth of food. And, we were planning to be there for a while. I think it was like a 9-day hunt or something like that. So my brother had a football game on a Friday night. Opening day was Saturday morning. We stayed for the football game, drove 4 hours, 5 hours up to where we were camped at, got in like at 4 a.m. I remember setting my alarm. It didn't go off. I woke up, the sun was out, and, me and my dad jumped in our Polaris Ranger and we went and hiked up to the top of this mountain. And as soon as we got up there, he was shedding off some of his layers that he had on because it was a pretty rough hike. And I remember just letting off a cow call. Bull responded and we started going towards him. I'd cow call every 50, 60 yards as we were walking towards him because my dad at the time didn't know how to cow call. So we just I kept cow calling, moving forward, cow calling, and then finally I seen him and shot him at 65 yards. And I mean, it was just pretty cool watching him come in and sharing that moment with my dad. So it was probably the most memorable for me. I mean, that's kind of a hard question because I've had a lot of awesome moments out in the woods. So I would say that, and as far as being part of a hunt, my all-time favorite's my daughter shooting her first buck a couple years ago. After she shot him, she was crying and she was excited, and it was just a cool moment to see my daughter take her first deer. So that's at the very top. But for me personally, as far as me hunting, it'd be when I kill my bull in New Mexico with my dad.
Now, it's your daughter. Did she use a bow or did she use a gun?
Used a rifle. Yeah.
Rifle.
Yep. Yeah. It was
it's kind of nice starting out that way when you have small kids. How old was she?
She was at that time. She was 12. Yep, 12 years old. Yeah. So it was cool. It was an awesome moment for sure.
Yeah, that's what's nice about the crossbows is you get them in archery, and it's a lot easier. They don't have to worry about drawing the weight because it's a whole lot easier.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I remember one time when my oldest son, we was out and these deer were coming by and he wanted to stalk up to them. So I'm sitting back here, I can't really guide him because he's just new at this.
Right.
And he got up there and he's sitting there and they come around a tree, an evergreen tree is hidden. He didn't realize he needed to draw. So he stepped out and he couldn't draw because they were out there looking at him. And
Yeah.
that was cool to be there when he did that. I couldn't
Right.
see him because I had to stay back because I didn't want two of us walking in there.
Right.
Because two people, twice the noise.
Right.
Yeah, you always have some memorable hunts. I know the one that I remember is it was wintertime, and up here when the sun starts coming up, you're going to start getting frost forming. It was one of those days when the frost is forming on everything, and I'm watching the frost as my bow's hanging up. I'm watching the frost form on my bow and all the tree branches, and then the sun starts shining through there and reflecting off all the branches, and that was cool. I took a picture with whatever camera I had at the time, but of course those pictures are long gone. That's been years. But I have the picture up here in my mind.
Hey, that's all that matters, man. That's
Yeah.
memories are for. You keep them in your own personal album in your mind.
Right. And then to drive home, there was a bunch of evergreen trees alongside the road and they were all frosted. You know, like you
Wow.
see trees for Christmas time, always frost them. And
Right. Yeah.
now those trees aren't even there. There are houses there instead now, but
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
so what was your most challenging hunt?
For sure, hands down would be antelope with the bow. I've been fortunate enough to kill 2. But I mean, you're hunting in flat country, hardly any cover. The first antelope I shot him I think it was the last day or second to last day. I shot him at 100 yards. And I mean, they're just so difficult to get close to. And it's hot. There's rattlesnakes. I mean, a lot of stalks. I mean, you're going to see plenty of antelope, plenty of bucks, but I mean, it's not guaranteed that you're going to get a shot at one. So when you're about to take a shot, you want to make sure it's going to count. And there on the first archery hunt that I did hunting antelope, I missed twice, I think. And it's just a roller coaster. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, and then the heat's getting to you, so you're getting frustrated, and you're crawling on hot desert sand, and your knees are all blistered up. So it was just, I mean, it was just a very difficult. I mean, not only physically exhausting, but just mentally exhausting. And they're pretty long hunts too. I think they're like 14 days or 11 days or something like that. But it was for sure pretty difficult. They're difficult. Their eyesight's so amazing, and like I said, you're in the flatlands in the desert, so it's not like you got all these trees you can hide behind, and you're using the smallest yucca to hide behind, and it's just super difficult. But it's a blast. Don't get me wrong, it's a blast. But you're definitely going to put in the time and the effort and the work to be able to wrap your tag around one of those.
Yeah. And where was that at?
That was southern New Mexico.
Southern New Mexico.
Yeah, that's where I was born and raised, and it was probably the first antelope I shot was about 15 minutes from my house, and then the second one was probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So we're kind of in what they call the Boot Hill area. It's the southwestern part of New Mexico, and there's a lot of antelope, a lot of big goats in there. But yeah, hard to get a tag, and even harder to hunt. So it's for sure probably my most difficult animal to chase and most difficult hunt.
Yeah, I know that the antelope we have here are pronghorns, depending on how you want to call them, but
Right.
you know, they're out in the plains, and you know, like there's not a lot of cover out there for them.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes just set up on a watering hole and
Right. Wait a
wait
minute.
for them to come to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just chasing them down can be challenging because, like you
Oh.
said, their eyesight is so good that, you know, if you see them, they've already seen you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing. They'll be 600-700 yards away and they're already running, and you're like, there's no way that they can see me, but yeah, they can see you just, nice and clear. So it makes it challenging, but it makes it fun.
Yeah, it's amazing that they have such good eyesight like that.
Yeah. Yeah, incredible.
Definitely would be a challenging hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
So what have you not hunted that you want to go hunt?
I'd like to kill a mountain lion. We got tons of them here, and once a snow hits, you got all the lion hunters out there with their dogs and stuff like that. And I've been invited to go, but I just never have gone around to doing it. But I would love to go on a mountain lion hunt in the snow and shoot one out of a tree, or probably another bucket list hunt would be to hunt Sitka deer in Alaska. Get dropped down in there and hunt for 5-6 days, and then try your best not to get eaten by a grizzly, and
Yeah.
and Yeah, just have a good time. So that's my bucket list for sure, is probably sit good in the Kodiak. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure somebody has a big gun with them when you're bear
Oh,
country.
for sure.
For a handgun, at least a 44 mag or
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah. Yep.
Anything else, probably just make them mad.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So you'd do mountain lion with archery then, wouldn't you?
I would. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I have a couple of friends that guide doing it. And like I said, I've had invitations to go, especially when a first snow falls and they cut a track. They're usually looking for people to go hunt and run their dogs. So one of these days it'd be nice to be able to accomplish that goal. But for now, I just have to set it as a goal and wait for it to be met.
Yeah, it probably, what is there a season on them? When does that start? The mountain lions?
I think it's year round here in Arizona.
Oh,
Yep.
but much better once you get snow so you can see
Yeah.
tracks.
Once you get snow, that's when a lot of guys will go cruise a lot of the back roads and look for track. And once they cut it, they'll let their hounds loose if they have a hunter and try to tree that tom or whatever it is.
And then what do they eat them then, or what do they do? They just take the pelt, or
I think a lot of guys do eat them, and a lot of guys mainly do it, to get a nice full body mount. But yeah, they do eat them. I had one guy actually tell me on the Coues Deer hunt that he had mountain lion, and it was probably some of the best meat he's had. So I'm like, yeah, I've never had it, so I'll just take your word for it. But yeah,
it all depends on how it's fixed. I know I've had people say, they don't like venison, and then here, try this. Like, oh, that's good. Well,
right.
what's the difference? Well,
Yeah,
one, it's how it's prepared once you kill it. It has been sitting around for, all day long before you've cleaned it, and how it's cleaned, and
right.
part of what its diet is, and then how well you clean the meat. Did you get all the fat off? And
Right.
just because the fat on deer, you don't want to eat any of it. You don't want nothing on it.
No.
Get it all
Yeah.
off of there. And
Yep.
I always process my own, so I can make sure I don't have any of that fat in there. And
Right.
even if you store it with it on it, freeze it, and then pull it out, it's still going to taint the meat that's next to it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
our first few deers we wasn't sure how to really cook them, because we hadn't really done much. And the first deer we had lasted us a whole year, and then it got down to where we're going through them now until I had my freezer full. And so I said, okay, this deer is going to have to be jerky because I ain't got freezer space. And I think that whole deer was gone in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
My kids are saying, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Get in pretty quick whenever turkey.
yeah. I know one of the best cuts of meat I had off the whitetail was, I threw it on the grill, the tenders, and put them on the grill. And those get thicker and they get thin, taper down. And so I'm waiting, I'm watching the tips, or can it cut it off, eat it, or can it cut them off and eat it. As it's cooking more in the center, I'm eating it as we're going right off the grill. So good that way.
Oh yeah.
So how much turkey hunting do you do? Have you try to do the Grand Slam or anything, or?
I never have. No, I never had an interest. I wouldn't say I didn't have an interest, but I never really took turkey hunting too serious. I never really got into it like I did deer and other animals like that. But I started turkey hunting been 2014, 15. And to me, it was just going out and basically just taking a few days off and just enjoying the nature. And then one of my friends took me to Nebraska back in 2018, and we went up there and I fell in love with it. And I went the year after that, I went back to Nebraska, And this year I drew a tag for Arizona for this spring. So we'll see what happens with that. So that's kind of the extent of my turkey hunting. But Nebraska was awesome, man. There was a lot of birds there.
Whereabouts in Nebraska did you go?
I want to say I remember the town. I don't know if it was Broken Bow or
Right. Yeah.
Right in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta start tracking down where the turkeys go. That I'm a mile from the highway, and just before you get to the highway, there's a group of probably 3 dozen turkeys that roost there some nights and walk around. There's enough for us to see, 2-3 dozen turkeys in that field. But
Oh yeah.
I can't hunt that field, but I can hunt across the street. So I got to figure out where they're going, try and figure out what's going on when it starts getting a little closer, a little more time when I can get out there. Right now, today it's warmed up, but it's been pretty cold there recently.
Yeah.
And figure out, try if I can see if I can track them down where they're going, so I know, what time of day are they heading south where I can hunt, or they going east, northwest, whichever direction. And then, because I can set up right across the street from them and, maybe call them over.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
have to do that. I don't do a lot of turkey hunting, mostly deer.
Right. Yeah. Same.
I got such a big flock. I got to try and hunt them this next year.
There you go.
Gotta get out there and do some.
Yep.
I was just looking to see if there was any comments, but nobody had any comments yet.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been, a lot of fun talking to you. It's always interesting talking to different archers from around the world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I really
Yeah.
appreciate the invitation, and being able to talk to you has been a fun time for sure.
Yeah, and we always learn something from everybody, no matter what you're doing. And you go to an archery event and hey, talk to them. A lot of the older guys like me, it's like, hey, you got a question? Yeah, ask me.
Right.
If
Yeah.
I can help, I can help.
Oh, I agree 100%. I always tell, I've brought a couple of friends, younger guys that go to our church, and introduce them to archery. And that's what I tell them. I said, you can't be afraid to ask a question. I ask questions all the time to some of my friends that I know have been hunting longer than I have, because, you can't let your ego get in the way and think you know everything.
Right.
I learn something new every time I go out. So that makes that's what I told them. Always have an open mind, and never think you know everything, because you don't. And
No.
you're constantly keep learning. And I said the biggest teacher is all the mistakes you make out in the field. And for me, that was my number one teacher, was all the mistakes I made. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I can't believe I did that. But as you grow as an archer, as a hunter, you learn things throughout the years that you do it. So that's the fun thing that I like about it, is you're constantly learning, and constantly, if you're willing to learn, you're gonna learn nonstop, and especially from older archers and guys that have hunted for a long time. It's just cool to get all those gems and put them in a basket and take them on your next hunt. So it's a good community for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a sport that has been around for 64,000 years, and I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Right. Yeah.
It's changed a little bit. Can you imagine, the compounds if they would had those back, when the Indians are running around?
Right. Yeah.
Compounds against the rifles they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been a different story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So have you shot any recurves or longbows?
I never have. Nope. I've never done it. Something I've always wanted to do, but it's kind of intimidating to me, because it's like, all right, what pin do I look through? There ain't no pins. So
yeah, there's a couple different methods for shooting at recurves. Now, the way I do it, I look at my target. I don't look at the bow. I don't look at the arrow. I don't look at none of that. and I just draw back, and then, you practice enough, and then you get, where where to go with it. And then
Right.
there's some that use the tip of the arrow, use that as a reference, for that. And there's something else that I've heard about it, and I've kind of explained a little bit, but string walking, where
Oh,
depending on where you're at, you're going to move your hand down on the string,
okay.
and that's going to change the way it shoots. And I just do instinctively. I just look at where I want it to go and focus on the target, and just shoot.
Yeah, I had one of my friends. He's a big recurve guy, and he lives in Louisiana. And he had asked me about, have you ever shot a recurve? I said no, man. I'm like, how do you even know where to aim? And the way he described it to me made a lot of sense. He said when you throw a baseball, you're not ranging how far the guy is, or it's just the feel of it. You know how much to put into it, and so to that, when I heard him say that, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Once you're not out there ranging, second base to see how much heat you need to put on it. It's just a natural feel for how much how much arm strength you got to put in. He's like, it's the same thing with recurve. You just, over the years, you just know where to aim. And so, it'd be cool to one day kill a Coues deer with a recurve. So, I mean, maybe that's something that I got to, practice and try to accomplish.
Yeah, you're going to have lots of hours practicing.
Yeah.
And when you do, don't go with the big heavy one. Go with a lighter one to start with,
Okay.
because as you draw back your compound, you get back, halfway or so, and it starts letting off.
Right.
Not with a recurve or a longbow. The further you pull it back, the harder it gets.
Got you.
So you're holding the full weight. So if
Wow.
you're shooting a 40-pound bow, which is normally rated at 28 inches, I don't know what your draw length is, but it's about 3 pounds per inch past that. So I'm drawing mag back to 29. So if I have a 40-pound bow, I'm actually shooting 43, and I have to hold that 43 pounds.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. It takes a little bit different muscles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you use a release or a handheld release. Is a wrist strap one, or?
Yeah. I use the one that's on the wrist. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, your hand is more in, kind of a horizontal position.
Right.
And, with the handheld ones, it's more in a vertical with your thumb down. Well, on a recurve, it's in a vertical position, but your thumb is up because you got it on a string. And you'll see a lot of people you'll see a little twist in that string. Well, you don't really want that twist in the string.
Right.
So it's a little bit different position. And it's just one of those that you just got to practice. And, I don't know about down there, but out here in Nebraska, I think it's 40 pounds out of 28 inches of draw length, is what the
Okay.
bow's got to be rated at. So if you're shooting a 27-inch draw length, you're actually shooting like 37 pounds on a 40-pound bow.
Yeah.
So it all just kind of depends. And when you get the compounds, that all kind of out of the park. So yeah, that would be a lot of fun to take one with the more
Right.
primitive type of weapon. And hey, it's archery.
That's right.
Yeah, I say it on a lot of my podcasts, and I actually had a post one time. Archery is a stick with a string playing another stick, and I posted to prove me wrong. That's archery. Whether it's longbow, recurve, compound, crossbow.
Yep.
And then they have, crossbows that just have just recurve limbs, and they have the new crossbows are just so narrow. They're not very wide at all. And
Yeah.
they're just almost weird looking.
Yeah. Yeah. They're super small. Yeah.
Which is nice. You get like the Excalibur, which has recurve limbs on it. It's just so wide.
Right.
There's just so much to get in the way. Or that one, it's more like the white, not much wider than a regular rifle.
Right.
A little more dangerous if you don't know where to put your fingers, but
Yeah, for sure.
that's what, when I was worked at the archery store, and And, when I had my store, I didn't really sell any crossbows, because it wasn't very popular then, but when I worked at Bass Pro and Cabela's, they had crossbows. And I always made sure I told everybody, anything you put above the rail will get removed.
Yep.
Put your finger up there, it's going to take it off.
Yep.
And a lot of the new crossbows now, where you grip it is so far down, you can't even force a finger up there. It's just, kind of help on that. But some of the older ones, you can go up there and put that hand up there if you wanted, but you're not going to like the results. Yeah, just all safety things,
Yeah, for sure.
You just gotta, be a little bit careful with what you're doing and realize that, you stored a lot of energy in there, and it's going to go somewhere.
Right.
That's why dry firing your bow is such normally it's a bad situation. If you're lucky, it's just kind of a stomach turning sound, because you dry fire across a compound. Yeah, it's like stomach kind of knots up when you hear that sound. It's like,
yeah.
But when I had my store, I had people come in and the bow is the strings off of it, and sometimes like the axles, you're doing it and pull the axle out and it's bent, and it's like, did you dry fire it? No, I didn't dry fire it. Okay, if you didn't dry fire it, I'm not going to check problems it could be. If you dry fired it and I don't check it to make sure that there's not something wrong with the limbs, you draw back, those limbs get split on you when you're full draw. Oh yeah, I dry fired it. Okay, I knew you did.
Yeah.
I just didn't want you to admit it, because there's things you can do to check, the alcohol and cotton balls, if the cotton will catch on the limbs, there's probably a little split in there, and if there's pieces missing out of it, but when you think about it, how are you going to bend a hardened steel axle? The only way you can do it is dry fire it.
Right.
So yeah, that's just things you learn being a bow tech. And like I said, it was in 2001, I spent a week down in Tucson learning how to tear apart their bows and put them back together, and how to make the steel cables, like on the old Nova bows, there were steel cables. And now if you have a steel cable bow and a cable breaks, forget it.
Yeah.
You're looking at more to fix it than what it would be to buy a new bow.
Right.
A few years ago, when I was doing it, I could get a set of cables for $20. That's a pair of cables. And then, probably, maybe 10 years ago, I heard it was $100 a piece for the cables if you could find them.
Wow.
And you can't make one. You have to make them in pairs. For one, if one broke, the other one's probably not too far behind.
Yeah.
And they have to be the exact same length. And you can't really determine what it is without taking the one off. So you basically cut the one, get the right size, and make two of them. And, like now on your bows now, if your cable is a little bit short or a little bit long, you put twist in or take twist out. Can't do that with steel cable. Its length is its length. So if you're not dead on, you can't really fix it. And that's why, you normally charge quite a bit for doing the work, because when you're only spending $20 for cables, you can afford to have a second set. If you mess one up, just make a new one.
Oh yeah.
When you're spending $200 for cables, you're going to get someone that knows how to do it. If you find somebody that's been doing it like me, it's going to be, $200 for cables. I'm going to charge you probably $300 for labor to make them. Because if I mess up a cable, I got to buy another one for $100.
Yeah.
And, it's just not worth it. You can buy low-end bow for right about that same price, and a whole kit with the bow, the sight, the rest, sometimes a quiver.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a completely different world, and it's nice coming up in that world, but things changing so much. I can't keep up with the new stuff anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's so many new bows out, and I've had people say, well, I'm going to get the best. Yeah, I want a Matthews. Marketing tells you they're the best. Are they the best? No, maybe. Yes. They're good bows. I had a Matthews Q2 for a while.
Yeah.
Good shooting bow. before I become a dealer. And when I become a dealer, when I was down there, it's like part of going to the dealer school, the cost of that, you got a bow. And I said, well, I shoot a Matthews Q2. Which one of these should I be shooting? And that's when I got the 2001 Carrera, and it was rated 320 feet per second.
Wow.
That was a 2001 bow. It was not, you're not going to get that,
Mm.
I had a whole podcast talking about why you don't get it, but you're never going to get what's rated, because you're never going to shoot it just like they call it out.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
Your arrow weight, your peeps, your draw length, everything is going to affect that change. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. Any parting thoughts before we head out?
No, I do appreciate it though. I appreciate, like I said, you extending the invitation to get on and talk archery and hunting, and I could sit here all night and talk hunting and archery. But yeah, it's awesome to talk to you and be a part of it. And I just, for any new archer that would listen in, go in with an open mind and take all the knowledge in you can, and always remember that there's not a limit to your learning. There's not a cap where you reach it and everything. Just always have open ears when you're talking to somebody that's done it for a while, and take all the little nuggets you can, and you'll grow up to be successful in the archery world, and you'll be one of those guys that people will be asking you questions about. And I just think it's a fun sport, and you won't regret getting into it. So that's about all I have to say about that. But like I said, I appreciate the invitation, and it's been fun.
Yeah, it's a sport you don't have to be the traditional athlete to do. You can be any age, any size,
Right.
any condition,
Right.
whether you have a physical handicap or not, or
Yep.
or you're in good shape, and it's just all of learning and technique.
Yep.
That's the thing. And until you can stick arrows inside of arrows at any range, any distance, you still have a place to go.
That's right.
And I don't know of anybody that can put arrows in back of arrows every shot at
Me
any
neither.
range.
Me neither.
I've done it a few times, but sometimes it's more of an accident. But
Right.
I am
Yep.
aiming right at the back of the arrow, and there are times when it still goes in, and it's one of those trophies you don't want to get too often, and that's why I shoot single spots most of the time now.
Right.
I don't want to be wrecking arrows. They're expensive.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I know our listeners, they'll enjoy it as well, because always good conversation. So
Absolutely.
yeah, my name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today with Archery Talk 101 with our special guest JJ Salinas, and we'll see you on the next one.